Joe Burrow is cleared for contact. So, what does it mean for him and the Cincinnati Bengals with training camp starting this week? We'll get into that and much, much more right now on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. Hi again, everyone, and welcome in to CBT. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. I'm James Rapien, and training camp is almost here. So join the 44,000 plus that have already subscribed. If you're a Bengals fan, you need to be on CBT. You need to be checking out BengalsTalk.com, also the Locked On Bengals podcast. And today, well, we got the good news that Joe Burrow has been cleared for contact. Zach Taylor discussing exactly that entire video right here on CBT, why it is good news. And you're going to hear from Mike Brown on Joe Burrow in just a second. It isn't as simple as, all right, Joe Burrow is just going to practice day in and day out, rep in and rep out, and play throughout the preseason and do everything that you would expect him to do. I will explain why in just a second. But before I do that, really throughout today, where the Bengals held their annual media day, whether it was Mike Brown, Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, everyone had the same body language when it came to Joe Burrow and when it came to the wrist and when it came to his injury. It's, yeah, we think it's past him. We think he's good to go. We think he's 100%. We think he's going to be the guy that we need him to be. And because Mike Brown, we don't hear from him much. We hear from him once a season, once a year. Let's start with what Mike Brown had to say on Joe Burrow. I asked him how concerned he was about his star quarterback.
Well, I'm not concerned right now. I think he's ready to go. I watched him during the off season, and he looked fine. He could throw accurately. He could throw strongly, far. He could do what he had to do in every way. He's the heart of the team, and we rise and fall on Joe. Everyone knows that. So I feel right now very hopeful because he's ready to go. And if he can do his part, it just makes the whole team rise. We just all do better. The players all do better. Everybody in here does better when he does better. Just the way it is.
Zero concern. And yet Mike knows how valuable Joe Burrow is, how important he is to this franchise. And that's why I think, even though there isn't concern about the injury, I think the Bengals are going to do what they can to make sure that Joe Burrow is as healthy as possible. I expect to see Joe Burrow out there on Wednesday. I expect to see Joe Burrow out there for most of the Bengals practices, if not all of the Bengals practices throughout training camp. But I also expect him to be on a pitch count. I don't think he's going to just be normal Joe Burrow. And that doesn't mean that he isn't physically capable of doing that. I think the coaching staff is going to dial it back some. I think Joe is going to understand that he doesn't need to push it right now in July. He doesn't need to push it in early August. Really, you're talking about 2 weeks from the opener is when you really start getting into gear. So late August, really just over a month from now, whether it's August 23rd, August 24th, something in that range, that's when you want him to start ramping up towards that September 8th opener against the New England Patriots. And so I think we're going to see Joe Burrow throw a ton. Heck, Zach Taylor mentioned, and we're going to talk about this on Enter the Jungle on Tuesday night, 8 Eastern, by the way, right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk every Tuesday. Is it smart to play him in the preseason? The Bengals plan to as of now. They do have 2 joint practices. Don't panic when Joe Burrow isn't out there for every rep or every snap, or you see that tweet from me, or you see us do a video where it's like, yeah, Jake Browning and Joe Burrow split reps today, because it's probably going to happen. And it doesn't mean that there's a setback when it does happen. It doesn't mean like something bad happened necessarily. What it means is the Bengals want to try to do everything they can to get their franchise quarterback to week 1 healthy. And he's coming off of a very serious wrist injury. And while the concern about the injury itself might not be there, getting Burrow healthy and knowing how valuable he is, keeping him healthy now that he is healthy and cleared, that is got to be a high priority for the Bengals. And I think it is a high priority for the Bengals. And so one of the main takeaways from today's media day, one of the main things that I want you to keep in the back of your mind throughout training camp, and I know I'm going to, don't overreact if Joe Burrow doesn't do much. If there's no noticeable issue and it's just simply he's on the sideline or he's hanging back when the first team offense goes out there, it might not be anything. And it might just be part of the plan. Zach Taylor, I asked him about trying to keep Joe Burrow as fresh as possible. And he said that it is going to be a balance, especially early on in camp. And so I do expect Burrow to take some plays off, some reps off, whether he wants to or not, because this Bengals franchise knows how valuable he is. They know that they can't do what they did last year, which is in a way let Joe go out there, even though Joe was just dealing with a little tweak of his calf, set the tone for the whole season. And that doesn't mean that they're going to shut him down the moment he has a hangnail, but you just want to balance it and you want to preserve. If he has a little soreness in his wrist, well, you give him a day off. If he has a little soreness in his calf this year, well, how about we slow things down a little bit and you're just really limited today because it doesn't matter. Super Bowls can't be won in July; they can be lost in July. And so that was a main takeaway today from the Bengals annual media luncheon. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, check out Enter the Jungle Tuesday night at 8 Eastern. We're going to have you covered all training camp long. And if you missed Mike Brown, Duke Tobin, Zach Taylor, Lou Anarumo, we have them all for you right here on Cincinnati Bengals Talk. So for Andrew Fox Miller, I'm James Rapien. Thank you so much for watching CB